On this Christmas day, we think of the Christ child, of course, and what wonder this is, that God would come among us as a child, and why he would do that, why he would come as a child and not some, huge creature that could overawe us and make us listen to him and tell us to be good and to avoid evil, or else, he could have done that. He could have come as a grown man. He could have come as some, Samson creature but he chooses to come as a child, and in this humility, this meekness, this littleness of a child, that's the way he chose to come among us, to be with us, to live among us, to show his love for us. He could have shown his love for us in those other ways, but he chose in this way, humility to the lowest extent, to the littlest extent. You can't get any more little than a little embryo, a little cell growing in his mother's womb. This little baby is something attractive, adorable, and makes us want to love him, to approach him, and to listen to him, and to look at him, and to hold him, and to have him, as a mother would want to have, and a father. And that's what we have. That's the way he presented himself to us, and he continues to do that in the Eucharist, where he's even more little, we can say, even more little, and he still allows us to hold him and to receive him, to take him with us. This is the greatness of God, the wonder, the awe of God. This whole nativity scene is shrouded with wonder and awe and amazement that God, Almighty God, who is all-powerful and all great and all perfect and can do anything, comes in this little form. He's doing this to attract us to him, but he's also doing it to teach us humility. Many messages, of course, many themes of this great mystery of Christmas, the Nativity of Jesus, but perhaps these are the ones that are the most important, the most profound. Humility, this love of God. And he emphasizes that humility, and he said that when he was preaching. He said, "Imitate me because I am meek and humble of heart." The only time he really described his character, his heart, and what is most important to him, this meekness and humility. This is the way God is. Although he's all-powerful and he can do anything, but he chooses to be meek and not to exert his power and dominion and domination and to crush us. He prefers to be meek and humble and merciful and kind and gentle, and he did that all of his life. He never carried that scepter, and he never wove that sword above his head as he was growing up, and he never climbed onto a white horse and rode through town and shouted from the top of his voice to say, "Listen to me." He went through as a meek, humble man all the days of his life, from the very beginning to the end, to teach us that lesson of humility, how important it is to be humble. To be humble before God, humble. And how do you be humble? How can you be humble? And we can ask that question because humility is a difficult virtue, and the longer we strive to acquire, we see how much work it takes to be humble, to constantly fight back these prideful thoughts and this making ourselves out to be important or dominating over others or putting ourselves first. How do you become humble? What do you think about? What do you do? Well, you think think about what did Jesus say? He took a child before him. He said, if you don't become like this little child, you'll never enter the kingdom of heaven. He didn't even have to say that. He could have said, well, look at what I did. I came as a little child, as a little baby, to show you. And this is a mystery, because we have to be good, and we're so selfish and we're so weak, and yet we have to be good, and there's so many trials to go through, so many temptations, and our tendency is to be selfish and to do bad things, and we don't see our Lord holding a weapon above our head and constantly warning us and threatening us. We don't see any of that. He doesn't do any of that in this life, and he didn't do it when he was living here. We have to see, we have to look, we have to work, we have to strive to pay attention to the teachings of Jesus, to follow his example. We have to do all this, and God's grace is there for us, and he is always ready to help us when we ask. But we have to do a lot of effort. We have to make a lot of effort. We can't just depend on God to do it. We have to do a lot. And he has left us a lot. He has given us a lot. He came to show us the example, to pave the way, to teach us by his own life and by what he did, by what he suffered. He showed it all to us. And what more do we need to know what path to follow? We just need to imitate him. Imitate him from the crib, from the little manger, to the cross, to imitate Jesus, and to realize that he's not going to threaten us during this life with punishment and crushing us every time we do bad things. He is holding out his mercy during this time of mercy. Our life is a time of mercy. He's patient with us, and he's holding out to us his mercy and his help and his patience, and it is up to us not to take advantage of it, not to look at the little child and say, oh, he can't hurt me, he can't tell me what to do, he can't force me. He's not trying to. He's trying to welcome us and trying to urge us with love and gentleness and kindness. If we don't listen to that, then we will have to pay. We will have to pay the price at the end of our life. So we can't look at this scene of the Christ child and then take advantage and take it easy and say there's nothing to worry about. I don't have to try too hard because he's a little child. He can't do anything to me. He can and he will, but he wants to show mercy. He wants to gently urge us to live a holy life, a perfect life, a life of perfect imitation to him and all that he has taught us to do. So when we look at Jesus, we look at his humility and how important it is to be humble and to imitate him, but also to realize that without humility, we will not have strength. We will not have the help of God. We will not have this continual stream of grace that we need to live a holy life. We have to be humble. We have to be humble if we want to be at peace and to be happy and to get to heaven. We have to be humble, and we have to be like a little child. And part of being like a little child and being humble is to place ourselves into the arms of Mary, who is right there. She's right there with the child. The child is not alone in the manger. He is with his mother. He's in her arms most of the time, of course. He is with her, and he started with her. He was in her womb for 9 months. He was with her all his days of his childhood. He was with her in his thoughts and his preaching, and Our Lady followed him, and she was with him at the end of his life. He took her with him. He stayed with her. He wanted to be with her. He wanted her company. He found his joy with her. He wanted to be nurtured by her, taught by her, helped by her. He wanted to depend on her. He was totally devoted to his mother. And we need to see that in the nativity scene, and we need to see that in our own life. We have to have Our Lady with us all the time, and we have to stay with her all the time. We have to be continually taught by her and molded and formed and nurtured by her, taught by her. We need to stay by her side with our hand in hers, in her lap, in her arms, in her care. We have to be with her, or else we're not going to make it to heaven. We're not going to make it to the end of our life. We're not going to persevere in faithfulness to God. We're not going to persevere in religious life or our marriage or our family life. We're not going to persevere unless we are always with Our Lady. Jesus showed us that example. And we see the whole thing, the whole Christmas scene is an example of the love of God for humanity, for all of us, the love of Our Lady for all of us, and how important it is to love. Love is what drove Jesus to come and become a child, become a man, to take on flesh, to suffer for us. Love is what motivated him, drove him to do everything. It is love that made him do the most astounding things in this life for souls, and to suffer so much all the days of his life, and to do so much, to teach so much, to heal, and to do so much good, to be so fruitful. Love is fruitful. Without love, we don't do anything. We waste our time, we are lazy, we fall into sin, we do very little. We do very little good in the world because we have little love or no love, or some love and we do some good. But we need to have a heart full of more and more love for God, and then we will do great things. We will do more and more for God. We will do more for people, for souls. We will sacrifice ourselves. We will be humble. We will humiliate ourselves. We will humble ourselves. We will serve God faithfully all the days of our life, and we will overcome all obstacles, every obstacle. We will be victorious. We will last until the end. We will live a masterpiece of our life. We will spend a life full of fruitfulness and virtue and holiness and goodness for God and for ourselves and for our fellow men, if we have that love for God. And we see it in Bethlehem, we see it in this nativity scene, we see it in the Eucharist, and we need to get it. We need to have more of it. We need to come and ask for it and seek it and hold on to it and cherish it and make it grow. And then we too will do so many good things for God, and we will imitate Jesus in Our Lady, and we will live the way we are supposed to, and we will do so much good. So we see all this in the Christmas message and theme and mystery, and we need to meditate upon it today and through this Christmas season, and let it bear fruit.
Miserere